Are you ready to be pissed off? I hope so, because I'm about to piss you off. So, as the title of the video suggested, this is going to be a video about the most underrated female character in Naruto. And, well, you're not going to like it. Most of you. Some of you will. Because it's not going to be about Tamari. It's definitely not going to be about Sakura. Sakura is overrated and underhated. You won't be able to change my mind. It's not going to be about Ino or Hinata. Which are all, with the exception of Sakura, they're all fire characters, right? No. This is going to be about Tenten. And before you scroll away, before you turn this video off because you think I'm a lunatic, one, you're not wrong, I am a lunatic. Two, I do have some evidence to back this. Well, evidence is a strong word. I do have legitimate reasoning behind this. So her debut in the series was the original Genin exams, right? I call it a debut. It was a shit show is what it was. So her big thing was the preliminaries of the third exam. And she was done so fucking dirty, right? In the prelims, there's a total of 20 Genin. And obviously it's 19 if you don't count her because she's not going to fight herself. So of those 19, there's only 5 people that she for sure can't beat. One is a toss-up maybe. Here's the list. Okay, so obviously she can't beat Tamari. That's been proven because of the wind. She wouldn't be able to beat Zaku for, well, the same reason. He's got the wind cannons in his hands. She wouldn't be able to beat Gaara because the sand armor, the omniscient sand defense, that he doesn't even need to see the attacks coming on. She wouldn't be able to beat Neji for the main reason of the heavenly rotation. Now, it's not clear whether or not he can do it in the prelims or if he learns it during the 1 month of training. But since he didn't have anyone in the Hyuga clan to teach him because he was a branch member, I'm going to go ahead and say that he most likely could use it to enough of an extent that he'd be able to deflect her weapons to rush in and close her chakra points. And then the 6th one, this is a maybe, and you're all going to really, really hate this. The maybe is the Lee. You have to remember, Lee, Neji, and Tenten have been training together for a year before they attempted their first Genin exam. They've been sparring against each other for a year. They know the ins and outs of each other's fighting styles. So if Lee doesn't take off his weights, it's going to be close, but I think Tenten would be able to just barely squeak out a win. But maybe not, because Lee is still fast. He's still durable. He can take a beating and, dish one out. So it's really going to come down to who knows the other's fighting style better. I'm willing to say that Lee would most likely win because he is just amazing at, hand-to-hand combat, and he's really fast at getting in there. So, that's 6. That means there's 13 other shinobi that she could have fought. So the chances of her fighting one that she could have beaten was significantly higher than her going up against one that she couldn't beat. And I know what you're thinking. There's more than that she can't beat. So let's go through that roster, shall we? Sasuke, right? She was going to body Sasuke, no problem, for a couple of reasons. Sasuke wasn't at 100%. He wasn't. He couldn't really use his Sharingan because the Cursed Seal was draining his chakra, making it really hard for him to use anything chakra related. Made it difficult for him to fight with hand-to-hand combat, which is why he struggled so much with Yoroi. He wasn't going to win that fight. He beat Yoroi because of plot armor that's almost as thick as Naruto. If Naruto didn't have plot armor, even with the Fox's healing, he would have lost to Tenten because that healing's not instantaneous. We've seen it. It's in the beginning, at that stage of the show, that stage of his journey, it is a very slow process of healing. Faster than a normal human, but not fast enough to keep him going in a fight unless he, goes into his tailed form, which he wouldn't have because he only does that when he's like super angry. Sasuke had to rely on a bastardized version of Lee's taijutsu. Now, remember, Tenten's been training with Lee for a year. she knows that taijutsu in and out, right? She knows how it works. So a vastly watered down version of it, she can beat. She wouldn't even need her Twin Rising Dragons to beat Sasuke. Her whole shtick is she's incredibly accurate with weapons. She's a weapons expert. At that point, she's technically not a weapons expert because they're still Genin. Nobody's an expert in anything. But she's well on her way to being a weapons expert. So, Yorui, his only thing is he can drain chakra, and that's cool, right? That would make a fight with anybody difficult, but he has to touch them. He drains chakra by grabbing them, and Tenten's not going to let him get close. She's going to chuck hundreds of projectiles at him. They're going to impale him. He's not going to be able to continue with that. It's just, it doesn't matter how many of them he dodges. He can't dodge them all. He's going to take some cuts and, some scrapes. And eventually he's going to get stabbed in the leg. A kunai, a thick-ass knife in your thigh, is going to stop you from running. That it just is, right? Never mind the fact that she could accidentally nick the femoral artery because nobody knows exactly where it is until it's too late. She could have easily immobilized him with shuriken and kunai. Once again, she wouldn't have needed her rising twin dragons. She wouldn't. Next is going to be Shino. I've seen a lot of arguments about this one. I haven't done the actual math on this, because there is math to be done when it comes to a fight between Tenten and Shino. Because everyone tries saying, oh, Shino can block all of Tenten's projectiles with his bug clouds, except he can't. They're just bugs. We'd be talking about a completely different story if they were having this fight outside in the forest still, where he had access to all the bugs in the forest, as well as the bugs inside his body. Because the Aburame clan can control more than just their Kikai bugs. They just only really use their Kikai bugs because that's all they really need. But Kikai bugs are not hardened. They're just bugs, right? She would need to pull out that scroll full of weapons because she's got some big weapons. It doesn't really show it so well in the anime, but in the manga, she's throwing these giant shuriken. She throws windmill shuriken. She throws metal nunchucks. So there's some blunt weapons in there. The force at which she's throwing them, they're killing these bugs. They're going through the bugs. I don't doubt that he can send out a cloud of bugs big enough to stop some of the weapons. But something like a Senbon needle, it's going to slip through the cracks of the bugs. It's going to pierce right through any bug that gets in its way. It'll slow down. It might not hit its mark. They might be able to deflect the trajectory just enough that there's not going to be any direct hits until she pulls on all the ninja wire strings that she has on her weapons and brings them back at him from behind. Yeah, all he really has to do is get one bug on her to start draining her chakra. But once those weapons are out of the scroll, she doesn't need chakra anymore. She's just pulling on ninja wire. He can't see behind him. His defense isn't omniscient like Gaara's. So even if somehow the bugs could stop all of the weapons, the ones that get behind him, when she pulls on those strings, they are absolutely embedding him. She can tie him up with the strings, the ninja wire strings. We've seen plenty of ninja do it. And while his Kikai bugs have been seen eating through things like cloth and wood, they've never eaten through metal. There's no guaranteed source that says, yes, these Kikai bugs can eat through metal. And that's what ninja wire is. It's a metal alloy. So they're not eating through it. So if he gets trapped, yeah, he can still send out his bugs. But, I mean, she could essentially just cripple him. Stab him in the knee with a kunai, and then he can never be a shinobi again. He's going to forfeit. He's not going to like it, but he's going to forfeit if she ties him up. You don't have to like it. Don't get me wrong. She's going to struggle fighting Shino. It's not a guaranteed win against Shino. It's more likely win against Shino than a win against Lee, which is why Lee's on the list of people she can't beat. But she's beating Shino. 8 out of 10 times, she's beating Shino. Okay? I will do the math. It'll be a later video, but I will do the math of how much force would be needed for a sharp object to slice through bugs, and to prove this later on. But absolutely, she's beating Shino. Next is I'm gonna butcher this name, but Misuni, the guy that fights Kenkuru. It's cool that he can pop all of his bones out of their sockets and be super flexible. But all the flexibility in the world isn't going to save you from getting stabbed in the chest, in the face, in the stomach, right? Oh, look, my arm looks like a snake. I can wrap it all the way around your arm, but I got it close enough to touch you, and you're staying on the other end of this stadium or the other end of this battleground, chucking sharp metal objects at me. Yeah, he's not getting close enough to use his grappling taijutsu. As overpowered as his grappling taijutsu is because of the way his body is, he's not getting close enough to Tenten to use it. It's just not happening. Kenkuru, you're all going to really hate me for this one. Kenkuru's puppets aren't doing much. They're wood. And there's been plenty of instances of just regular kunai by, no-name people sinking into his wooden puppets. If she starts throwing blunt objects at those puppets, the puppets are being destroyed. It's reinforced wood. Okay. She's reinforcing her strength with chakra. That's why she's throwing this shit so hard. You know how hard it is to embed a metal object into cement, and she does it anyway? To embed something so deep in the tree, like, you throw a kunai at a tree. Go ahead, buy yourself a kunai, go out and throw it at a tree. See how far you embed it in. I'm going to go ahead and bet that you can only get the tip in. She embeds it further than that. She is absolutely enhancing her strength. So the enhanced wood of the puppets is irrelevant at that point. They cancel each other out, right? And no-names are throwing kunai that are sinking into the wood of these puppets. Kenkuru has this bad habit of, 1, hiding inside of his puppets, which if he does that, he's getting stabbed. 2, substituting with a puppet and hiding in the bandages on the puppet's back. Bandages aren't going to stop anything if she has to use her twin rising dragons, if she has to throw her shit that are connected to ninja wire and bring it back. So, does he have a chance? Yes, but he's going to have to get really lucky because those puppets aren't doing anything to her. She's going to break him to bits. She knows how to use almost all of her weapons. She knows how to use even by that point. She can pull out a bow staff and break up his puppets, no problem. I feel like I don't really even have to bring up the fact that literally anyone can beat Sakura and Ino, especially at the point of the Genin exams. But I'll break this down. Sakura has no ninjutsu to speak of. Her only real usable genjutsu that we've seen from her at this point is the clone jutsu, which, makes fake clones. She's got good chakra control, but she's weak. She's physically weak. She hasn't really learned how to enhance her physical strength with chakra yet. And even if she had, her taijutsu is laughable at best. She's not getting close to Tenten. She's not even landing a punch on Tenten, but even if she did, Tenten spars with Rock Lee and Neji. She can take that hit, brush it off like it's nothing, and hit her back harder. Tenten wouldn't even have to use a projectile on Sakura, like, for sure. Ino's kind of in the same boat, right? She doesn't have any ninjutsu to speak of except for the mind transfer jutsu, which moves so slow that she's not hitting somebody with it without Shikamaru holding her in place. She manages to hold Sakura in place in their fight. But if she's not fighting Sakura, she's not cutting her hair, so she doesn't have the hair to hold Tenten in place on the round, So that doesn't matter. She's not hitting Tenten with the mind transfer jutsu. We don't really see her use the clone jutsu except for when she's fighting Sakura because it's a useless jutsu. She's physically weak. She doesn't have any taijutsu to speak of. She's a slightly more useful Sakura. And she's still pretty useless at this point. Hinata, at this point in her journey, she is so riddled with self-confidence issues that she can't really fight for herself. She manages to fight against Neji because of the things he's saying, because he badmouths Naruto, because Naruto's cheering her on. And Naruto would still be cheering her on, don't get me wrong. But Tenten's been training with Neji for a year. They both use the gentle fist style. Neji uses it significantly better than Hinata. Tenten knows what she's getting into. She knows how to counter it because she's been training with it for a year. Minimum. They've been a team for a year. They might have even been training during the academy. It's not specified. Next is Dosu, right? And this one was a rough one for me because I like Dosu as a character. I like his way of fighting. And he's going to do some damage, but at the end of the day, he'll get to use that flute arm of his 2, maybe 3 times. Because you got to think, Lee knows Dosu's shtick. The second Tenten gets matched up with Dosu, you know he's going to tell her, hey, don't hit that flute arm. That's how he fights people. He, moves the music into your ears and it messes with the equilibrium. He's going to warn her, right? They're good teammates. They're teammates that care about each other. He's going to warn her. So she'll hit it a couple times, but ultimately she's going to throw a bunch of metal or a bunch of projectiles behind him, wrap him up with ninja wire, and embed those weapons in his gut, and he's done. He's done. It's not going to matter. Choji is another rough one. Here's the thing. If Choji's doing his little boulder spin thing, I can't ever remember the name of that attack, but if he's doing that, he does rotate so fast that projectiles do bounce off. And that's fair. But all Tenten has to do is dodge it like Dosu did. Choji's going to crash into the wall, and the second he crashes into the wall, he's now a stationary target, and he's made himself bigger. She's impaling him multiple times, and it's over. Choji's a very good fighter, but that because they're fighting in such a small arena, his chances are significantly lower because he's going to hit a wall and get stuck like he does against Dosu. Shikamaru's good at this point. Like, he makes it to the finals for a reason. But Tenten is a member of the Konohagakure. She knows what the Nara clan is all about. She knows about the Shadow Possession Jutsu because it's not like a hidden secret in the Leaf Village. Kin was at a disadvantage because she didn't know about the Shadow Possession. In the beginning. She learns about it in the middle of a fight, fine, whatever. Tenten's not going to give him a chance to use the Shadow Possession. He's one of the slowest Konoha Genin because he's not physically strong, because at this point, he hasn't put any actual effort into training. So he's slow. He's faster than Choji when Choji's not doing his spin thing. He's faster than Sakura and Ino. I would say maybe he's faster than Naruto, but probably not. He's slow. He's not dodging her attacks. He can dodge some of them, but he's taking some hits. He's going to get grazed here and there, and that's going to start slowing him down, especially if he gets grazed in the leg. I've been shot in the leg. I've been shot in, my leg's just been grazed. That pain is so intense that you're not running at full speed anymore. It's just not happening. Okay? So he's going to get grazed, which is going to slow him down, and he's going to start taking direct hits. He's not going to get the chance to use his Shadow Possession. Tenten's holsters are going to be empty because she's going to throw everything. So even if he does manage to catch her, he's not going to be able to do the same trick he did with Kin, because Tenten's also going to make sure she's not that close to the wall. Kin placed herself a foot away from the wall. So he bent backwards and slammed her head against the wall and knocked her out. That's not going to happen with Tenten. On the off chance Shikamaru gets the chance to use his Shadow Possession Jutsu, which once again he wouldn't be able to do. So, Kin is not going to be able to really do anything because in order for her bells to work, they can't be touching the ground because they can't ring if they're touching the ground, which is why she attaches them to Senbon needles and impales the Senbon needles into the ground. She throws them at people, and if they dodge, they get embedded in walls, ground, tree, fine, whatever. Tamari's going to knock them out of the air, so the bell's going to be laying on the ground. So Kin's not going to be able to make them ring and move that sound into Tenten's ears, but even if she does, she's not very fast either, because she's never needed to be fast because she uses her bells. Dosu is pretty slow too for the same reason. Zaku's the only one that's fast out of the sound ninja team because he has to be. You know, he's not using music to debilitate his enemy. He's fighting them head on, so he has to be able to be fast to dodge their attacks. Kin isn't fast. She's taking hits. She's going to throw 3 Senbon needle, and with those 3 Senbon needle, Tenten's going to throw a much larger number of shuriken, probably like 8, right? The Senbon needle's going to get knocked out of the air. They're not going to get a chance to impale themselves on anything. The bells are going to be sitting on the ground, therefore they're not going to be able to ring, and there's going to be shuriken flying at ridiculous speeds at Kin. She's going to get hit. Her one form of attacking isn't going to work, and on the off chance she can get one bell ringing, it takes several bells to start debilitating Shikamaru. Tenten can absolutely cut those strings. Those bells aren't going to stay on Senbon needles very long once Tenten finds out what the problem is, you know. The final one, and this is... this was another one that was kind of difficult for me to figure out. But she's absolutely beating Kiba. Kiba's fast. He's fast as hell. That's his thing. He's a dog guy. Kiba and Akamaru are incredibly fast. But they have a couple of really big problems with their attack pattern. They use Fang over Fang like it's going out of style, right? Which it absolutely is going out of style because, one, it telegraphs. You know exactly where they're going to land because like the trajectory that they're going, and Tenten would be able to figure out trajectory better than anybody in the Genin, in the tuning exams, out of all the Genin, because that's her thing. She throws shit. Trajectory is one of the most important things when throwing projectiles. So she's going to be able to figure out exactly where they're going to land. She's going to be able to, throw her objects at that spot that they're going to land. And when they land, they can't just immediately jump into action and do another attack. They have to get their bearings back. They were just spinning so fast that the wind was conforming around them in such a way that you couldn't see their bodies, right? They're dizzy. They may have gotten used to it to an extent that they're not dizzy for long, but their equilibrium is going to be out of whack if they try and move as soon as they land. So she has a couple of seconds when they land to impale them. She's absolutely going to capitalize that. They're going to use Fang over Fang once, maybe twice, before she has it down pat, before she realizes, oh, I can attack before they land. They'll land, they can't move, boom, they're hit, we're done. That's what she's going to do, and it's game over, So, don't get me wrong. Tenten is not the strongest female character in Naruto. Temari is absolutely stronger than her. Hinata becomes stronger than her. Sakura and Ino are still weaker than her. Sakura gets super strength, so if she can manage to connect to Tenten, she'd be able to beat Tenten later on in the series. But by then, Tenten's gotten stronger as well. She's gotten faster. She's gotten better with her weapons, so she's still not going to let Sakura get close enough, right? Tsunade's stronger. Shizune's stronger. The Cloud Ninjas, I can't remember their names right now. They're stronger. She's not the strongest female character. She's definitely not the strongest Genin that participates in the tuning exams. And to be fair, the only reason she's beating Sasuke is because the curse mark is significantly weakening him. If he doesn't have the curse mark, he has access to his Sharingan and his entire repertoire of ninjutsu. Yeah, she's not winning that fight. I'll own up to that. But it's because he doesn't have the Sharingan. He doesn't have access to it. He can't use it or his ninjutsu because of the curse mark that she beats him in the Chunin exams prelims. So there are, like I said, 6. There's 5 that she's for sure not beating. She's for sure not beating Temari, Zaku, Gaara, Naruto, or Neji. She's probably not beating Lee. I'd say if Lee doesn't take his weights off, she's beating Lee 3 out of 10 times. If Lee takes his weights off, she's losing every single time. But he only takes his weights off against Gaara because Guy allows it. I don't think Guy would allow him to take his weights off against Tenten. Because Guy would be like, no, it's your teammate. You shouldn't need him to beat her. You know how she fights. You don't need him. And yeah, for the most part, he wouldn't. But 13 of the 19 other contestants, she beats. She beats. And I'll do the math for you if you want in another video. But Tenten is the most underrated female character in Naruto. Because that's her main scene. Is the Chunin exams prelims where she's matched up against the worst possible matchup for her. If she had been matched up against any of the 13 that I said that she could beat, that I've explained how she could beat, she would have won. Nobody would be like, oh, she sucks, you know. She doesn't. She's not great, you know, but she's good. She's stronger than some of these genin that, you know, catch a lot of, oh, they're great. And remember, if you think Sakura isn't useless, you're wrong. And I will prove it if you need me to. Thanks for watching.